All right, let's get started with our next History of Texas lecture. This one is covering Chapter 4, Launching a Nation, 1836 to 1848. Although Texas had decisively won its independence from Mexico, many problems faced the newly created nation. In addition to political and military divisiveness, there were the problems of financing the new government, pacifying the Indians, and rebuilding devastated areas. With the threat of Mexican reconquest still hanging over their heads, the people approved a mandate for annexation to the United States. Their vote in favor of the Constitution drafted during the March Convention at Washington on the Brazos expressed their endorsement of the transplantation of U.S. institutions, since the new Texas Constitution resembled the one written in Philadelphia in 1787. Anglo migration during the 1820s and 1830s ensured the institutionalization of the English language and also of Protestantism and republicanism in Texas. The latter ensured sovereignty of the masses, a permanent system of checks and balances on government, and regularly scheduled elections of public officials to guarantee the will of the people. The first president of the Republic of Texas was Sam Houston, a veteran of American politics, and of course the victor at the Battle of San Jacinto. When annexation was not forthcoming, Houston's government grappled with the Indian problem and with financial distress that included $1.25 million in foreign debt. Houston's first administration set the boundaries of the Republic of Texas, readjusted the political hierarchy at the local level into one more in keeping with the U.S. tradition, and approved legislation to encourage immigration and raised revenue by selling public lands. Houston also created new forms of defense. His successor, Maribel Lamar, criticized Houston for failing to get Mexican recognition of Texas independence and took a much different approach towards the Indian problem and financial dilemmas. The pinnacle of foolishness or vision, depending on what historian is evaluating the outcome, was President Lamar's choice of promoting and subsidizing the Santa Fe expedition. His more sensible policies included laying the groundwork for the public education system in Texas and setting aside public land for the establishment of 2 colleges. The Republic's debt were enormous, and the aftermath of Santa Fe expedition had been costly and embarrassing. Retrenchment ensued when Houston was re-elected president in 1841. Fiscal frugality was the order of the day. Houston also saved money by not constantly engaging the Indians in hostile actions. In December 1844, Anson Jones, Secretary of State under Houston, won the presidency on a platform to stay the course his predecessors had set. Texas continued to experience financial woes, but there was demographic growth with natural reproduction and a renewed flow of immigration. The immigration policies of the 1840s attracted Europeans to Texas, and the population of Texas became even more culturally diversified. Mexico had always promoted European immigration to balance concerns about the overwhelming influx of Anglo settlers. Texas offered numerous opportunities, leading to population increases, the rise of new communities, and the encouragement of farms, plantations, and ranches due to the Republic's liberal land policies. Texas independence strengthened slavery's hold. Punishments were legislated for those found guilty of stealing slaves, encouraging slaves to run away, giving refuge to fugitive slaves, or promoting slave insurrection, and slave codes defined the status of blacks as chattel in perpetuity. Slavery in Texas was by no means kinder and gentler than in parts of the Deep South. On plantations and large farms, it meant toiling from sunrise to sunset, planting, hoeing, and harvesting cotton, corn, and sugar, accompanied by cruel punishments if deemed as insolent or arrogant. The slave system made no exception of women. Enslaved women faced cruelty, and it might come to women in especially terrible forms, as in the loss of their children to sale or rape. Long, a Spanish and Mexican enterprise in the region, raising cattle and horses remained the traditional pursuit in East Texas. Anglos added a new dimension to livestock, raising when they imported ranching traditions from the South, primarily South Carolina. Sheep accompanied Anglo-Americans to Texas and were crossbred with Spanish sheep. Despite the wide interest in sheep-raising industry, this aspect of agribusiness did not flourish during the period. Texan culture was evolving. Its traits included resiliency, self-reliance, courage in the face of danger, and faith in the promise the future of the Republic held. That said, this rugged self-reliance contributed to a general lawlessness in the new land, in which individualism was usually expressed without inhibition. The Texian bravado nourished a disorderly society, as evidenced by the so-called regulators and moderators feud, and the smaller ones that erupted over land titles in the late 1830s. Mexico refused to honor the treaties of Velasco and sought to undermine the Republic of Texas's government. France and England balked at recognizing Texas, France due to economic pressures, and England because it opposed the new nation's recognition of human bondage. Houston soft-pedaled the issue of recognition, but Lamar acted brashly on the issue of expansion to the south and west, and ultimately led to an ill-fated Santa Fe expedition of 1841. The U.S. presidential election of 1844 was won on the issue of expansionism, and James K. Polk pushed through the annexation of Texas. When Mexico declared war on the United States, President Polk assigned General Zachary Taylor to the Rio Grande, thus ensuring that the disputed area between the Nueces and the Rio Grande would become part of the United States. Causes of the war with Mexico are complex and have been endlessly discussed. Expansionism, racism, and even abolition and anti-slavery sentiments made the war unpopular, and the United States was roundly criticized for bullying a weak nation. Hostility remains a legacy, but more important, Texas would play a vital part in strengthening the South's hand in the fiery debate over the future of slavery in the United States.